booyaka shot. Booyaka shot. Ch-ch-ch-ch-ch-ch-ch-ch. Cheer. It's the end of the world as we know it. Yes, the NBA is officially changing. The landscape has been transplanted with something brand new for the planet. When I say it's not satanic, listen, it's crazy. I got all of these alerts turned on to my X profile, the social media platform formerly known as Twitter. And when I tell you, it is hot. It is spicy, jalapeno butter hot. In this episode, we're going to talk about NBA free agency. We're also going to cover some of the fallout from last week's NBA draft, and we're also going to talk a little WNBA fantasy. We believe every NBA fan that plays fantasy football should also play fantasy basketball. So we are here in the offseason 2024, and it is a new world. There's all kinds of stuff happening. Unbelievable changes that I never thought I would even get to see, but it is upon us. We are here now, and it's going down. We are streaming again for the second week in a row. I got some messages from some of our community members and from people who just found us that they enjoyed the live experience. So to make life easier for you and maybe a little more stressful for myself, I will try my best to go live at 11 p.m. For the next, few weeks, foreseeable future, whatever it is, but also we'll be creating the audio episodes as well. With that being said, I know you're not here for all of that. You want to hear how the NBA landscape has changed and what we can expect as fantasy managers, but also just as NBA fans. So I have a list that I want to go through tonight. Man, I got a feeling this might be a longer than usual episode. I could be wrong, but we'll see how it plays out. So the first domino I want to talk about, the first domino that fell to kind of start this, for me at least, is Klay Thompson. Klay Thompson has been a Golden State Warrior for as long as I can remember. And honestly, I remember working a job in New York City as a senior leader in a nonprofit organization. And I remember the early days of the Splash Brothers. Before they started winning, there was like these comic books that went around that had the Splash Bros and portrayed them as superheroes. So I was always very high on the Mark Jackson-led Warriors. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't until they started winning that maybe I hated a little bit on them. But think about some of the iconic moments that we got from Klay. I think he had most points in a quarter or something like that at one point. And there's that iconic image of him with his tongue out, kind of showing people that he had the swag. And then he had injuries, and those injuries led to him performing on a different level. And then eventually last year, even being benched. So from what I'm hearing in the media, there are very, very sensitive lines of communication that have been compromised over the last few weeks. And right now, I believe, according to Woj, it's at a standstill, and it doesn't look like Klay Thompson is going to be a Warrior, which for Golden State Warriors fans, y'all got 4 championships. Y'all will get over it. I do not feel sorry for you, Dub Nation. With all due respect, I don't give a shih-tzu puppy about that. But what I do care about is a legend, moving on to another team and what kind of fantasy implications it can have. With that being said, what I believe is going to happen is the impression that we've had of Klay in fantasy, where he's kind of been tapering off year after year, I believe the right landing spot can lead to increased value for him, right? I think when Jordan Poole left Golden State, maybe they expected more from Klay, and him not being able to perform at that elite all-star level kind of, messed up the chemistry a little bit, you know what I'm saying, especially when it comes to his individual output. So I think landing in a spot where they really just need a shooter, and there'll be opportunities for him to knock down shots. For example, in Philadelphia, I think that would be a great opportunity for him. In Orlando, if he somehow ends up in Orlando, I think that would be an amazing landing spot for real-life basketball. for Clay as he, winds down in his career, but also for fantasy managers. There may be some value in an environment like that. One thing you want to be mindful of, if somehow Klay Thompson ends up hanging out with LeBron James with the LA Lakers, I would stay away from Klay. I'll probably stay away from Klay anyway, but if it's like that, I don't want no parts of Klay Thompson playing with LeBron James, and I have my reasons. Many of them are personal reasons, but at the end of the day, I do think him landing in Philly or in Orlando could actually be a good look for him. All right, so the next player we want to take a look at, another player who is on the move, and this one has been confirmed. Earlier today, it was announced that the Golden State Warriors, another player from the Warriors, the Golden State Warriors waived Chris Paul, a.k.a. CP3. They waived CP3. And within hours, he secured a contract. If you didn't hear about it, come close because this is good. He secured a contract with the San Antonio Spurs. A 1-year, $11 million contract with the San Antonio Spurs, which means that Victor Wembanyama has arguably one of the greatest point guards in NBA history distributing the basketball for his team. This is huge, y'all. This takes, in my opinion, right? I could be wrong, but I'm gonna jump out the window on this one. This takes the San Antonio Spurs from being like a bottom of the barrel kind of team with no chance to a legitimate, at least playing team. They might be a playing team. They might even make it, into the playoffs, but definitely a playing team with the addition of Chris Paul. So I'm really excited to see what happens. I don't think he's going to be much of a difference maker in terms of fantasy. I don't think his fantasy value increases as much. And also there are still concerns around his health because year to year, even when we get the value of grabbing him in the later rounds, he somehow ends up in your IR. So I would be careful with that for fantasy, but for real life NBA, I'm super excited about CP3. I'm going to fire off just a few more, and then I want to talk a little Paul George. So just a few hours ago, Jonas Valanciunas signed with the Washington Wizards for a 3-year, $30 million contract. Fantasy-wise, I think Valanciunas still has some value, but definitely on a decline. Next up, a really big contract. Cade Cunningham signs a 5-year, $226 million rookie max extension. Oh, baby. He is cooking with hot bacon grease. When I tell you, your man is going to be raining just like paper is raining. The money is falling. But Cade Cunningham is a solid point guard for the future. I still think Detroit is a hot mess, like dumpster juice. Not a good look, right? But I do believe that Cade securing his contract is a good look for them to have some kind of a cornerstone player to move forward. For fantasy, Cade is still one of my favorite players. Also, this is big news. If you didn't hear about this, come close. Kevin Porter Jr., right, who was in some legal issues last season and actually was, there was a big question mark around his future in the NBA. Apparently, his legal situation is getting cleaned up and he's not going to have anything on his record, but he was just signed for a 2-year contract to the LA Clippers. Again, we'll talk a little bit more about Paul George later, but if somehow Paul George leaves, this could be a great opportunity for KPJ, especially if you are playing in a dynasty format. Like, I almost picked him up today in one of my dynasty leagues. He is available. He is widely available. People do not have him on their roster. So if you want to snatch him up to kind of see what happens with the Clippers and kind of get ahead of the game, I think that would be a good look for you. So I'm really interested to see what he does in LA and also what kind of role Ty Lue will carve out for him. Next up, another quick one. Andre Drummond signed a 2-year deal with the Sixers. When Embiid, God forbid, knock on wood, I don't want any NBA player to get injured, but history shows that Joel Embiid gets banged up. And if you have the backup center, a backup center like Andre Drummond. History proves when Andre Drummond gets minutes, he actually puts up major numbers. Really quick before we go any further, I want to just talk to you guys about BetOnline. BetOnline is your number one source for all your sports betting needs this season, from baseball, golf, soccer, right to the top fights in UFC, MMA, and boxing. Every stat, every matchup, and every live odds and spreads while the games are being played. When the game's over, head on over to our online casino and get in on a game of blackjack or poker, or unwind with one of our over 150 slot games. Head to the website today to get in on the action. Use promo code BELIEVE for your 50% free bet credit on your first deposit up to $250. Yes, you heard me right, $250. BetOnline, the game starts here. So we talked a little Drummond. Let's go back to the Clippers. And this is wild to me. And I'm gonna try to be nice here. No, I'm not gonna be nice. I'm gonna stand on business for this one. Standing on business. James Harden is not what he used to be. We all know that. But also, he just signed a $70 million contract? Like, come on, man. Like, where they do that at? Like, your man is not on that level anymore. And I don't want to mess with anybody's money. Like, I don't think little old me creating content for the Believe Network, for Believe in Fantasy Basketball, I don't think the beard is going to be mad at me when I say this, but your man has been hot dog water for the last couple of years. Since he's left Houston, James Harden has not brought that beard with the fro hawk energy. He needs to, like, take the cornrows out and get a fro hawk. Like, we want that James Harden back. We don't want on the boat hanging out with Lil Yachty. We don't want all of that. We don't want you in the club making it rain. We don't want all of that. We want that triple step back. You know, we want you laying Wesley Matthews down on the ground, making him do a split, looking at him, shimmying. That's what we want. And I get you. He had a decent fantasy basketball season last year. I'm not knocking him for fantasy. I think when it comes to NBA fans, especially people who see Harden in the playoffs and see how he shows, like he doesn't show up, I should say, it's just, I don't know if he's that guy to be throwing $70 million at. So it is what it is. It's going down. Oh, baby, this is good. And this one is like, you know what it is. The New York Knicks have officially taken the top off. Boobies is out. Hair blowing in the wind. Convertible status. They are not playing. The chips are in the middle of the table. All the money is there. Like, I'm putting my watch on the table. That's how much they're going all in. And if you check out some of our older episodes, I wasn't on the hilltop about this point or this take, but I definitely mentioned it on several occasions. I kept saying, all the Knicks need to do is get Mikal Bridges on a team to unite the Villanova boys, to reunite the Villanova boys. I've been saying this for a year. And when I saw that tweet come in, I was like, oh my gosh. Like, I might go grab my Bing Bong hat tonight and, like, officially get on the bandwagon, because that is some, like, championship level basketball cojones that these guys have. I'm just saying. Julius Randle, Josh Hart, DiVincenzo, Jalen Brunson, Mikal Bridges, and they signed OG Anunoby for 5 years, I believe. Come on, man. It don't get much better than that. The Knicks look crazy. So, like, Tom Thibodeau is going to be running these dudes to the ground. They meniscus is going to be, like, burnt out. You know what I'm saying? Achilles burning. But you know what? They might be knocking on the door. I don't know if they'll get the chip because Boston looks crazy. But this is a nice step in the right direction. Next up, I want to talk really quickly about Westbrook. He's going to be staying in LA. Also, Lauri Markkanen has not been moved, but I hear that a lot of teams are checking for him. And the other big move we had DeJounte Murray getting traded over to the Pelicans. This is a big deal because the Pelicans were already good. They made the playoffs last year. Zion was banged up, which is something that happens with him over the last few years. And he had a really good season last year. It was just down the stretch he got injured, and it sucks. But I think having a player like DeJounte Murray kind of puts them in another class. However, the West is so stacked that even if they get a player like DeJounte Murray, they still not the top dogs yet. They got a lot of work to do. And it's also worth noting that Brandon Ingram is in the last year of his contract, so they're going to be looking at ways to retain him. And there's a possibility that they might trade him away so they don't lose him for nothing next year. Let's go into some Owner's Box. Fantasy sports fans, are you ready to elevate your game with a thrilling twist? Let me introduce to you Owner's Box, the unique daily fantasy sports platform that's changing the game with its one-of-a-kind Lightning Lineups feature. Imagine this. It's just you versus Owner's Box. No more complicated matchups or endless stats to analyze. Just a direct showdown where your sports savvy shines. With Owner's Box, you simply spin, pick, and your lineups hit. You win. It's that easy. Whether you're a rookie or a seasoned fantasy player, Owner's Box Lightning lineups are perfect for anyone looking for a quick contest with a chance of winning. It's all about making your experience fun, fast, and favorable. And here's the best part. Right now, Owner's Box is offering up to $500. Yes, is offering up to $500 in bonus rewards with your first deposit. Just visit bit.ly/OwnersBox500. That's bit.ly/OwnersBox, the number 500. To get started and claim your bonus, spin, pick, and win. Join Owner's Box today at bit.ly/OwnersBox500. So, in this offseason, NBA offseason, I should say, we've been covering the WNBA Fantasy. It's been interesting, learning a lot. I want to keep that going. So we're going to talk a little WNBA Fantasy, and we're going to start, of course, with one of my favorite segments of the show, the Caitlin Clark Watch. So Caitlin Clark has been consistently turning the ball over. She's averaging 5.6 turnovers a game on the season, but she's having a decent season. She's averaging 16.2 points per game, 5.5 rebounds, 6.6 assists. So for me, I'm all about that Caitlin Clark life. I drafted her in the first round of my first WNBA fantasy experience, and I don't regret it. No, she's not one of the top 10 players in fantasy right now for WNBA, but she's still very good. Since the last time we spoke on the 27th of June, she played 38 minutes against Seattle, scored 15 points, 6 rebounds, yes, 7 assists, yes, no steals, 1 block, but again, 6 turnovers. That is a consistent issue. On the 30th of June, she played 39 minutes against Phoenix, 15 points, yes, 9 rebounds, yes, and check this out. This is good. 12 assists. Cooking with hot bacon grease, jalapeno butter. I'm all about that Caitlin Clark life. There are some other stories about her. I think Diana Taurasi recently made some statements. Tonight, we're really going to just run through some of her stats and also talk WNBA waiver wire, just because we have so much NBA to cover. So, speaking of WNBA waiver wire, let me share my top 5 WNBA fantasy waiver wire targets. First up, from the Los Angeles Sparks, we have Stephanie Talbot. Stephanie's widely available across ESPN WNBA Fantasy. She is only rostered in 5.8% of leagues. Over the last 7 days, She's averaging 34 minutes per game, 4 points, 2 rebounds, three assists, and 2 blocks. I'm really interested in her blocks. Again, not the sexiest pick, and not literally. I'm talking about basketball. Please don't. I'm not trying to get in trouble out here. But I would say that the blocks are super valuable. Next up, Bridget Carlton. Over the last 7 days, Bridget Carlton is averaging 28 minutes per game, 17 points per game. Yes. 4 rebounds per game, 4 assists, 1 steal. And the 17 points per game is up from 8.6 on the season. So she is crushing it right now in terms of points. If Bridget Carlton is available, I would grab her. Only rostered in 37.2% of ESPN leagues. It's worth noting that we are only talking about players who are rostered in 50% of leagues or less. Next up, Jordan Horston. Jordan, over the last 7 days, is averaging 32 minutes, which is up from 23 per game on her season average. She's averaging 9 points per game. Yes. Check this out. Whew, this is good. 7.3 rebounds per game. Ladies and gentlemen and ladies, she is a guard. I'm just saying. That's crazy. Man. 4 assists over the last 7 days, 1.7 steals. We always love those defensive stats. Very, very interesting pickup. Next up, let's take a look at Odyssey Sims. Odyssey Sims is averaging 25.5 minutes per game over the last 7 days, 12.5 points, 2.5 rebounds, 4 assists. And this is crazy, y'all. I'm going to have to just you got to see my face for this one. Oh, my gosh. Come here. Odyssey Sims is averaging 2.5 steals per game. I love that. I'm not going to hold you. Those are some amazing defensive stats. And in fantasy, defensive stats are heavily weighted, especially in a points format like WNBA Fantasy. That is just crazy. I'm just saying. Grab her. Only rostered in 6.9% of ESPN leagues. And next up, we got Kayla Thornton. We've talked about her a few times this season. Over the last 7 days, she's averaging 28 minutes per game. That's up from her 19.3 minute per game average. 8 points, 6 rebounds, and 1 steal per game. Grab yourself some Kayla Thornton. So we're going to keep it pushing, y'all. This is... I'm hoping to keep this episode around 45 minutes because I know we got a bunch of stuff with the NBA free agency stuff, but you know what? It is what it is, man. I'm just grateful and blessed to be creating podcast content for you. There is so much happening in my personal life, in my spiritual life, even my professional life. Last week I did my first ever TEDx talk, which took a lot of my creative energy, but just the aftermath of that is a lot, that I'm dealing with, just connecting with people, and it's nothing bad. It's all positive, but I'm just happy to be here to talk some NBA fantasy with you. So before we move on, I want to quickly talk to you guys about Underdog. I am super excited to talk about one of our favorite NBA fantasy sports partners, and NFL and other sports, but really for NBA. That's what I love to play, Underdog Fantasy. Underdog is the best place to play fantasy sports, including best ball, daily drafts, and pick'em. Start drafting in minutes for a shot at big cash and an enhanced game-watching experience. Sign up today and use the code GAMEPICK, and Underdog will match your first deposit up to $250. It's like getting free money. Don't miss out on your chance to double up from the jump. To sign up, download the Underdog Fantasy app on Android or iOS and use the promo code GAMEPICK. That's GAMEPICK. So let's talk a little NBA draft. I'm not going to recap it. You could watch it yourself, right? You could go back and look and see who got drafted, where they went. But if you tuned into our episode last week, I was on the hilltop, like going hard. As my son likes to say, I was glazing. As my son likes to say, I was glazing, right? For my man, Rob Dillingham. Now, when I tell you, I grew up in an era where we didn't really pay attention to basketball players until they got to college. I had I'm going to show my age here, right? But I had the honor of having the UNC championship team come to my high school to play against our faculty, right? It was huge. There was Donald Williams, George Lynch, Derek Phelps, Eric Montross, Rick Fox came one year. So we had, different levels of it where UNC players would come to our high school every year. So Rick Fox was on a different team, but any way you look at it, like college basketball was what I was about. My favorite player growing up from college was Chris Webber. I was really into that. So like Kobe Bryant, Kevin Garnett, guys who went straight from high school into the league, we didn't pay attention to them until they got into the draft. Then it was like, oh, let me learn more about this player. But when I tell you, in this house, in the Robin Marks household, we have been watching Rob Dillingham since he was a sophomore in high school. He was playing for Donda Academy, Kanye West School. We've been watching this kid on YouTube, supporting him when he came to OTE. We're in the Atlanta area, so we attend some OTE games. So we are huge Rob Dillingham fans, and we've been rooting for this young man to get drafted. He was drafted to the Spurs, which I wanted to see, and I thought that was good. But they traded him to Minnesota. When I tell you that we are so excited and happy about it. And I was on a record last week saying that the best player from this draft is going to be Rob Dillingham. I promise you, when it's all said and done. I promise you. I might be wrong, and that's okay. But if I had to do an over and under for Underdog Fantasy right now, I would do the over on Rob Dillingham being the best player out of this draft class. You just watch. Because I've been watching for years. It is not a game with this young man. When I tell you, the comparisons, I can't really, people say Darius Garland. Some other people say Bones Highland. When I see him, I think about Allen Iverson. That part. So I'm just saying, the biggest story for me as a fan was Rob Dillingham. Now for fantasy, I would draft Rob Dillingham the same way I drafted the Thompson twins at the end of most of my drafts last year, just to see what happens, right? A player that I am not drafting. Let me get a sip before I go into this one, because I'm about to go there on this one. Yeah, see, I got that Buc-ee's cup. So I would draft Rob Dillingham at the end of my fantasy draft. But somebody that I am not going to draft, which has been a joke to me. And I love LeBron James. He's one of my favorite players of all time. The longer he plays, the closer I get to saying that maybe he is better than MJ. That's how much I love LeBron James. I'm still a MJ guy. That's my era. But we've never seen anything like this. I've never seen a guy at this age perform at this level. We've never seen that. Some of the things that Jordan did, we didn't see that either. But when Jordan was his age, he was smoking cigars at the casino. That's what he was doing. LeBron is in the gym, thinking about the next 3 years. With that said, the Lakers took Bronny James with the 55th pick in the second round. When I tell you, y'all, It's crazy, yo, everything that's happening. It's a circus show. It is an absolute circus. It is so crazy the way people are on the internet, either really high on the choice of Bronny getting drafted, or on the other side of the spectrum, just hating from the core of their inner being. It's wild. So where do I stand on it? I went to church today, right? And I go to a really big church, like what they would quote unquote say is a mega church, right? And a message, and whether you're religious or not, this is just a human thing, right? This is not a faith thing. This is not a religion thing. This is just a human thing, right? What the pastor said today was really powerful. He said that our beliefs and our opinions are not what, your entity, whether it's your God or the universe, whatever you believe in, is not more important than what they say or what they project or want you to do. So for my belief, I'm a Christian, right? So my belief is that, hey, kindness over everything. Like, even if it's my enemy, I'm not going to be like nasty and mean about it. We might disagree on something. Like right now we're in the middle of a presidential race, right? So there's people on the right, there's people on the left, and people are mad at each other. And some people are going deep, regardless of their faith or their position or their political affiliation. They're going deep. And honestly, it feels like that for sports media right now. And this Bronny James thing is bringing out the ugly in people. Like Bubba Sparks ugly. 3 X's. Gross. Yuck. Pusha T. Yuck. I'm just saying. Stephen A. Smith and ESPN, they were really like all for the pick and almost kind of arguing that nepotism is a part of NBA culture, right? So it's something that is not new. It is something that is consistent in the NBA and always has been like that, always will be like that. For example, what's his name? Austin Rivers. Austin Rivers gets drafted, and then he ends up playing for his dad later on in his career, whatever it is. The argument that people are making on networks like Fox Sports, right, which is kind of going head to head with ESPN, is that Austin Reeves was actually a really, really good player, where they're saying that there are other players in this draft that maybe should have got drafted but didn't get the opportunity to get drafted because Bronny James took the spot. And it's getting ugly. People have like personal attacks on other people. So for me, the clown show is not so much the Lakers drafting Bronny James. The clown show is how people are responding. Like if you want to like make content, right? So like I make content too. Sometimes my content, like I did a video the other day making fun of Jason Tatum's, we did it! And I was like, come on, man. Like you could have tried harder. Like this is not like, Kevin Garnett, anything is possible. Like your remix was whack. But I'm not going at the fabric of this man's soul. Like I'm happy for the Celtics, but I'm creating content. I'm poking fun. These people are talking about Bronny James and his health condition in a way that would suggest that him like facing death is something lighthearted and something to like make jokes about, which is crazy to me. So I wanted to mention it because. And I'll end on the Bronny James stuff on this note. Kindness goes a long way. And if in the sports media space, folks want clicks and likes so much that they would be willing to discuss like a person's health conditions or health challenges in a, disrespectful manner, I think it's time to think about another avenue, because honestly, even if you pop and even if you blow up, even if you become the creator that you want to be, or you get the opportunities that you want, at what cost did you get it? That's what I'm just saying. If you want to check out more about Rob Dillingham, check out this video right here. This episode has been presented to you by BetOnline.